This is Democracy Watch. Marc, a Politico article titled "Republicans Are Starting to Raise Alarms About Trump's Ground Game" explained, and I'm going to read a quote here, in interviews, more than a dozen Republican strategists and operatives in presidential battlegrounds voiced serious concerns about what they described as a paltry get-out-the-vote effort by the Trump campaign, an untested strategy of leaning on outside groups to help do field work, and a top-of-the-ticket strategy that's disjointed from the one Republicans down the ballot are running. So we'll get to Trump's ground game in a moment because I think that that's important and there's a lot there. But is it possible that the reason Donald Trump isn't even bothering to invest in a ground game is because he's just so reliant on trying to subvert the election results regardless?
Yes, and the fact is Donald Trump has said as much. Like, what's crazy is Donald Trump is not hiding his plan. Donald Trump has said, don't worry about getting out the vote. He has said over and over again that he is not worried about getting people to vote. He is only worried about getting enough bodies in his voter suppression operation. They have had a clear three-part strategy now for months. I wrote about this in Democracy Docket in May, that they are going to try to make it harder for people to vote. They are doing that in court every day. They are going to file challenges and mass challenges and do purges and harass election officials. We are seeing that. And they are going to challenge certification afterwards. That is all that Donald Trump cares about. He does not think that he can get out enough voters to win this election. You know why, Brian? Because he can't get out enough voters to win this election. The fact is he lost the popular vote by 3 million votes in 2016. He lost it by 7 million votes in 2020. He will again lose the popular vote in an epic landslide. The only question that he has is whether he can rig the rules and rely on the Electoral College in such a way that he can eke by in enough places to squeak by for one more election. And we all need to recognize that is his plan. It is not getting out the vote.
And I know this is an overly simplistic question and probably way too reductive here, but it's the question that I think a lot of people watching right now want answered, and that is, will he be successful in his bid to do that? Can he be successful in his bid to do that?
We need to take the threat seriously, okay? The fact, though, we take it seriously doesn't mean it's going to succeed. So he believes this is his best chance because he doesn't have the votes. And so he is dedicating all of the Republican Party's money and resources and time and energy to this effort. But my message to all of you is don't give in to that fear. Don't let that prevent you from making sure you're registered, you have a plan to vote, and you vote for Kamala Harris and the Democrats. There are lawyers, there are political operatives, there are hardworking election officials and public officials around the country who are going to ensure that Donald Trump does not prevail in this effort. But you need to do your part by making sure that you have a plan to vote and that you vote for Kamala Harris.
And chief among those working in the courts to protect these elections is your team. So just a quick note for anybody watching right now, a very small step that we can all take to show our support for Marc and his team is to sign up for Democracy Docket. I'll put the link right here on this screen and also in the post description of this video. It's a news outlet he founded to focus on everything voting in elections. It's also an amazing resource. Marc, going back to the ground game, because I think that that's the important part I wanted to talk about initially, how much of an impact does the Trump campaign basically foregoing direct voter contact actually have?
So the conventional wisdom is that a good ground game can be the difference between 1.5 to 2.5 points. Okay, so you're talking about a meaningful amount, right? In a close election, ground game is oftentimes the thing that tips the balance. So the fact that he is foregoing that, and the fact that the Harris campaign is headed by a woman, Jenna Dillon, who is literally the most recognized, the most celebrated field and ground game builder, I think gives Democrats up and down the ticket, not just in the presidential, but more broadly, a huge advantage this November. So this could be outcome determinative, not just in the presidential race, but certainly when you get down ballot, even more so.
Well, if you want to talk about talented officials heading up some of these offices, I think we can't leave out Lara Trump's name.
Do I hear a song? Do I hear a song? A song?
Yes. Well, I would love to use it, but I don't want to get hit for those are expensive to buy right now. It's like I think that and Beyonce, I wouldn't be able to afford those kinds of songs.
Right.
So the dismantling of the RNC does come after Lara Trump was appointed to head up the organization. Was it perhaps not a good idea then, in retrospect, given what we know now, to put a budding pop star in charge of the party's get out the vote apparatus?
I know that's hard to believe. I know it is hard to believe that putting Lara Trump, who has no qualifications to run a picnic, no less a national party, in charge might have been a mistake. It might also have been a mistake, by the way, to fire the competent lawyers, such as they were within the RNC, and replace them with a woman who is currently under indictment in the state of Arizona for the fake elector scheme. Like, there are a number of these appointments that one might look back on in retrospect and be like, that probably wasn't the smartest thing. But look, Donald Trump doesn't care, because Lara Trump will do the one thing that Donald Trump wants. And it is the one thing that J.D. Vance did at the debate. It's the one thing that he insists on, which is that she will advocate the big lie. She will be an avowed election denier. And he would rather have people soothe his ego over the fact that he lost the 2020 election than have competent people around him who tell him the truth.
Well, it goes back to what you were saying initially, which is it's not even that important for the RNC to allocate its resources toward get out the vote efforts, because if the RNC is keeping its money so that it can fund legal challenges in the aftermath of the election, then ultimately that really does redound to the exact strategy that Donald Trump wants to use.
Yeah, that is true now. I think that the smart Republican strategists, and there are smart Republican strategists, there are smart Republican strategists within the Trump campaign. I suspect if you made Susie Weil and Chris LaSavita tell you the absolute truth, they would say, yes, that's true today in October, the ship has sailed. But it didn't have to be that way. Right. It could have been that Donald Trump tried to pivot more to be an acceptable figure in American politics. He could have chosen a vice presidential nominee who does not, tell fanciful lies and spread disinformation. Like they could have run a different campaign, but that isn't the campaign they ran. They have made no efforts to appeal to the center of the electorate. They've made no efforts, by the way, Brian, to appeal even to the traditional Republicans in the electorate, right? Forget about the center. They have done everything they can to antagonize Republicans who don't agree with them. And so at this point, they are left with this voter suppression strategy.
Well, it's not just Lara Trump who is using her position to help her brand. Melania has emerged from her conclave to sell a book. Trump himself has been hawking crypto, $100,000 watches, $2 bills, silver coins with his face on it. Is this all just like some pretense to cover for his actual family's real priority, which is just to bilk all of his supporters for every last dollar they have while they still have the chance here?
Yeah, I was listening to a New York Times podcast in which Mark Cuban was interviewed and said that he is one of the reasons he likes Kamala Harris is that her campaign reminds him of the old time Starbucks when it was like warm and welcoming and you went in and it's where you met friends. And when I think of the Trump campaign, it's like the tourist shops on, at Times Square hawking you like junk, for $20 a pop. Like it's the cheap T-shirts and the tchotchkes that nobody wants, right? And that is what the Trump campaign is. Like you mentioned that he is hawking $2 bills and coins. Like they're not really even $2 bills. They're fake $2 bills. They are worthless $2 bills. They are worthless coins, right? Like he is selling them junk and taking in money. And it is such a low rent and such a obviously transparent effort to just basically bilk his unsuspecting, or not unsuspecting, but bilk his poor followers, that it's kind of sad. He's worse than a carnival huckster. He's like the guy who couldn't afford the permit in the carnival, and like he's sort of hanging out in the parking lot with the knockoff carnival items. It's just a pathetic spectacle that he and his family have become.
And it's made even worse by the fact that at the same time they're doing this, hawking $100,000 watches, they are telling you that the country is in such dire straits and that your economic position is so dismal that you can't afford anything, but also please open up your wallets and make sure that you can buy $100,000 watches with my face on it.
Yeah, I do worry that the watch scheme is actually more sinister than that.
And that was going to be my last question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped your question. I'll go back.
No, that's okay. That's okay. But it's that exact point is that I know, with the $2 bills and whatever, it's just a way to easily grift, the majority of his supporters. But when you're selling $100,000 watches, is there any worry that they can actually offer a front for foreign governments, for example, to launder their money to him?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think it's a totally different nature. I mean, the fact is that if you are a billionaire trying to buy policy in the administration or a foreign government trying to buy influence, you really don't want to have to order 10,000 steak knives and 5 million $2 coins, right? Because what the hell where are you going to put them, right? Like, it's a very inefficient way to move money into Donald Trump's pocket. He used to have a hotel, but he doesn't have those.
I wonder how many Trump steaks you need to buy to actually give him the amount of money that you're looking to get him.
Right, exactly. Right?
So, how many steaks does Saudi Arabia need to buy?
Yeah. So what I worry about the watch is we keep saying it's a $100,000 watch. I suspect it's like, it sells for $100,000, but the margin on that watch is, it is also like a piece of, what. And so this looks to be a different scam. If the first is to bilk the small dollar funder, supporters of his for junk, like I said, Times Square, this looks much more sinister. Like it is a way for rich people to put money in his pocket, and all they have to do is get a watch that they throw out rather than get a pallet full of, $2 bills.
Yeah. And I presume that like the FEC, for example, doesn't have the ability to be able to investigate, much less enforce action against if this is how candidates may be scheming their supporters to subvert existing campaign finance laws.
No, and the FEC doesn't. But honestly, this is something the Department of Justice needs to look into, because I don't think this is actually an effort to skirt the campaign finance laws. I think this is actually an effort to like put money in his personal pocket by people who want to be able to go to him and say, look, maybe I gave your super PAC $1 million and you appreciate that, but I bought 25 of your watches.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, I threw them away because they don't work, but I bought 25 of your watches.
Yeah. Or 17 million steaks. So,
right.
All right. Well, we will, of course, stay on top of this issue as it continues to play itself out. And I know, Marc, that you are very, very closely tracking the Lara Trump beat, and that you let me know before we started recording that you would keep us up to date on her next single dropping. So we will, of course,
Spotify.
come back to
Spotify. Apple Music.
Yeah. Well,
you ever notice that when Trump is constantly stealing artists' music where they don't want him to play their music? Notice he never uses the music that his daughter.
Well, you know what? There's only so many Kid Rock songs that you can pump into people's ears before they start to lose their minds from it. So I guess he'll just deal with the cease and desist that he gets from every single musical artist whose music he steals at his rallies. With that said, again, we will stay on top of everything as soon as it continues to play out. For those watching, again, to support the invaluable work that Marc and his team are doing, please make sure to subscribe to Democracy Docket. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.